Another edition of the Clan Chat. Aaron Murphy here, and it is really cool to finally get the face on the screen. Jake Bolton with the good beard and the good hair, ready to go for training camp. Tell us where you are right now, and Jake, let us a little bit know about what the preparation has been as we're inching ever closer to a big season for the Purple Army.
Yeah, so I'm just about an hour outside New York City right now, Hamilton, New Jersey. It's been great. Obviously, I signed back about a month ago, and it was sort of I'm sure we'll get into that story, but it was a whirlwind series getting the contract done and deciding to play hockey again. So it's just been at the rink all day, every day since then. I run a hockey training company in the summer, so I was already at the rink every day anyways, and now I just added an extra hour and a half, 2 hours a day for my own training, and then upstairs in the gym, and then back on for some coaching. So it's been crazy running around, seeing some family before I leave and stuff. But no, it's been a great month. It feels good to be back at it again.
Well, you and I both know the hockey life. Sometimes when you're in it, it feels crazy when you've got that sort of 6 a.m. flight or you've got like an 8 a.m. weight session. But when we all look back at it, you go, you know what, hockey life, we're lucky. A bad day of working at hockey is better than a good day in the office, I'd say.
No kidding. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to touch on that whirlwind because you and I spoke a little bit as well, and certainly Jason Morgan has done a great job assembling the roster. But you had a bit of a whirlwind last year, a cup of coffee, shall we say, a flying visit in Glasgow, 8 games played, a couple of big goals, but you had a monster season in Guildford the year before. So talk a little bit about your time in Glasgow last year and how we've gotten to the point now where you're coming back for a longer season this time.
Yeah, no. So obviously things were a little crazy. So I played a year in Guildford and decided to hang him up after that season. But it wasn't something, these days everyone's kind of announcing their retirement preseason and making a whole show of the whole thing. And, it wasn't something I knew I was going to do for sure. And, stepped into the summer, ended up retiring and got a job and was working. I did a clan chat when I was there in November, just about my job and things like that. So I came back then for the month. I had been talking to the head coach at the time before Dice took over. And, there was some injury trouble on the back end, and I had an opportunity where I could work and play. And, there's no roster exchange if you're only out there for under 30 days and you have, you assign somebody to an IR contract. So I could come out, get some hockey in, and it was great. Obviously, Dice did a great job running the team. And, we had a good little stint while I was there. Loved playing there. My time in Glasgow was awesome. And then, so basically the short version of the story is the job I was working was owned by some people that were doing it as a side gig. It wasn't their full-time job, and we were about a year in, and it wasn't quite where they wanted it to be. So they decided to close the doors. It was just too much hassle for what was getting put in. And so I was at a point where I was out of a job. I was looking back over my shoulder and missing hockey every day since I had retired. And you give a lot to the game, and the game gives back to you. I got a call pretty out of the blue from the guys over there and just said, "Hey, would you consider coming out of retirement?" And at first I was like, this is a little crazy. I think it would be great, but there's a lot of moving pieces, probably not going to happen. And then I talked to the guys about a week later. I said, "Hey, I'd actually really love to do it. Let's have a chat." And ended up signing it 2 days later. And I'm pumped. It's great to be back in the game. And I loved my month over there in Glasgow. And getting back over there with the guys is going to be awesome.
Well, I know the reaction from the Purple Army was immense when your signing was announced. They felt like you, when you were there for that 8 games, a couple of big goals, and physical play, all the things that Glasgow fans enjoy. You left them wanting more, and certainly they'll be cheering for you come game number one. You look at it too, in that season in Guildford, it was a monster year for you statistically, but it was your first go around in the Elite League. So talk a little bit about, the East Coast League, your time in NCAA, and being in Europe, and then the Elite League, I think, is better than most people think it is, isn't it? Was that the case for you?
Yeah, for sure. I had sort of a full circle career a bit. Like, you played NCAA, especially Atlantic League Division I, and it's very chip and chase, throw the body, play hard in front of the net. And then, you go into pro as a rookie. And, someone like me, I'm not, I'm old school, like I have respect for the veterans, kind of quiet around the room, speak until you're, if you're spoken to kind of guy, and played a little nervous my first couple of years in the coast, to be honest. It was something I just wanted to make sure I wasn't making mistakes, playing a really simple game. And then, eventually did the jump to Europe, and, Norway and Sweden, the game is so controlled. Like you're not really dumping the puck in. You know, turnovers are huge, and it was just a very different style of hockey for me. And when I got to go to the UK, the game is built so much more like the North American game because there are so many imports. And like, you know, I think 10, 15 years ago, the league was looked at as sort of a rough and tough, you know, all your third line guys, you know, like to drop the mitts and throw big bodies and stuff that would go over to the UK. And now it's become so much more skill and so many higher level players coming over, but it still has that edge to it. And I think I sort of found my sweet spot with this league where it's not, you know, it's not just throw the puck in and play like a dummy and forecheck hard. And, you know, that's the whole game. There's a lot of skill to it as well, but it has that North American feel where you're playing tough. It's 5 minutes for fighting. It's not thrown out for 6 games like Norway or whatever it is. So it's got a really good balance between the two. And like you said, you know, I obviously had a great year in Guildford, and I think this game just fits my style really well. You know, I love being on the big sheet, but still being able to play physical and get the puck to the net. And, you know, obviously things went well, and I look forward to carrying it forward with Glasgow this year.
You look at our roster on the back end and what Jeff Bada and Jason Morgan have assembled. Some big bodies like yourself and Cody Soul. Some guys that have won titles in the league like Reddick, newcomer like Callan. And it has to be exciting for you as a guy who's been here. You had a good season in Guildford. You were here for a little while last year. You look at that roster and who you're going to play with on the back end. It's got to get the blood going.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, all the way down the roster. Like, obviously, I've had a long career. This will be my 9th pro season, and you know, I've played with a ton of guys. And then after playing in the UK, once guys come here, then they see this style of play and they see this league, they want to stay. So you play against a lot of the same guys, but our whole roster, top to bottom, is built with guys that I loved playing with and hated playing against, quite frankly, which is great. When you get those guys on your side of the puck, it's awesome. You know, Sol and I. We don't know each other personally at all, but I've played against him a bunch. I played against him in the ECHL as well, and we've gone at it a little bit. Combs and Sanch have gone after quite a bit in their time in the UK as well. So, you know, having those guys on the side of the puck. But, yeah, our back end looks really strong. It looks like we have a great balance of puck-moving guys that can play physical, you know, guys that know their systems really well are going to be able to play their roles. And, you know, I think it's a lineup that's going to be built to really be able to put anyone on the ice in any situation. And, yeah, it's exciting. I mean, top to bottom, forwards, defensemen, and goalies, we look good.
I like the fact that you mentioned you went after Sanch and Combs a little bit, because when Morgie and I started the process, and everyone in the office, we're looking at things and the way we want to play, and we want to be harder to play against, especially at home. I mean, let's be honest, it wasn't a great season last year in Glasgow for various reasons, but that's in the past. New ownership, new sort of ethos, and we want to be harder to play against. And guys like Sanch and Combs might not be the biggest guys. They might not stand out like 6'8" Cody Soul, but you as a defenseman, talk a little bit about playing against those sort of buzzsaw players like a Sanch and a Combs that one mistake and it's in the back of your net.
And it sucks. They just get under your skin. It's unbelievable. It's going to be great to have them on the team this year. I think I might have some bridges to mend with Sanch a little bit. I think I had 6 penalty minutes against them in one game when I was in Glasgow. They play tough. You know, they're those Marchand style players. Like you said, they're not the biggest guys, but they get into the corners. They'll hit you low. They grind in front of the net. They're not going to back down from anybody, and it pisses you off. Like when you are a big guy, it's tough to play against that, especially with undersized forwards. But you know, that's something you love to see. They're skilled. Not only can they put the puck in the back of the net, but they can draw those penalty minutes. They're going to go hard in the corners. They're shifty players. And, you know, I think having both of those guys come over this way and be able to put, you know, their chemistry together from having played together the last couple of years too is unbelievable. So it's going to be really nice to have them on my team instead of having to deal with them.
And maybe we'll have to have a clan chat with myself, you, and Sanch, and we'll go out for dinner and see how it all goes as you explain your take on the 6 penalty minutes in one period against him, and he can explain how his take was.
I'm sure he'll say it was his fault and he was being annoying, but
I tell you what, those guys will be fan favorites. They were probably hated when they were in Dundee by the Purple Army, but once you start scoring a few goals, that's all water under the bridge. Couple of questions on social media. David Plimmer wanted to ask you scored a couple of great goals when you were here last year, but do you prefer a big block, a good defensive play, or a goal?
That's a tough one. I don't know if I'm going to be able to answer that. Do we? Are we up? Are we leading and we need a block, or are we down and need a goal? Kind of depends, you know. But you know,
that's the Warriors mentality, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You know, obviously, putting one in the back, and that's awesome. It's more about just putting one up for the team and being able to win the games. Obviously, the game is who's got more goals than the other team, but there's nothing that your players and your teammates respect more than eating the puck. It sucks, and it's something that is going to happen when you get down to block it, and you still got to do it. So, there's a lot of glory on both sides of it. But yeah, obviously putting the puck in the back, then that's awesome.
Jamie Pollard, I think we kind of covered this, but we'll give Jamie his question. What made you want to come back to the Clan?
Oh, obviously I'm, getting to play hockey again in general, but Glasgow was such a good experience when I was there. I think, this place that I was in when I decided to retire, and the first time Glasgow called, my company actually hadn't decided to shut down yet. And if it wasn't for the guys that work in Glasgow and the way they treated me when I was there, I probably wouldn't even responded to it. It's really difficult when you're out of hockey to deal with that hockey side again and deal with offers and have to turn them down. But just, out of respect for the staff there, I was like, you know what, I'm going to give them a call. I'll be straight up with them, say I'm probably not going to play, but I'm not just going to blow this call off. Like, the housing situation was great. The players were awesome. I was only there for a month and the guys took me in like I wasn't a temporary guy, and hanging out all the time whenever we could. And obviously the front office was great getting me settled. And, I said, you know what, I'll take this call and chat with these guys and look where we are. So, you never burn a bridge, and it's for good reason. So, just the way I got treated when I was there, and then obviously the lifestyle in the city, and then, the fans, like you said yourself, we didn't have the greatest year last year, but games were packed every time. And that's something that's really good to see from your fan base. When you're struggling, it's usually normal to see less and less and less fans. And they did a great job coming out and letting us know that they were still going to be there and keep pushing for us. So who wouldn't want to play for a fan base like that?
I talked to Jason Morgan. I was in Glasgow last week. Jason Morgan and Jeff Batta, we went out. We talked about each and every guy on the roster and how excited they were. And they just kept coming back to the way you play, a bit of a throwback style, hard nose with a good offensive upside, team guy. I tell the Clan fans that maybe didn't see you play those 8 games last year, what can they expect from Big Jake Bolton this season?
Oh, I'm a guy who likes to move the puck up the ice and like you said, get pucks on net. My whole career has really been built on creating chances for the team to get a goal, whether I'm putting it in myself or getting a rebound from a big shot at the point, and then playing tough. That's something too that I've just always had in my game. I've always been a little oversized since I was a kid, and I just love that part of the game, getting in guys' faces, throwing big hits. It not only is it fun, it helps the team, and it's something that you can do whether you're having a great game or an awful game. You can always bring the physicality. Sometimes your stick just isn't there. You're just not getting the pucks to the net, or your passes aren't perfect every game, but you can always play physical. So yeah, I certainly think, especially with the other guys that we have in the decor this year, you're going to see a skilled hockey team that's going to play really tough.
Yeah, your shot came up many times at that lunch with Bata and Morgan about the bomb from the point. So there's so many facts to the game and so many parts of your game that work so well within the system that we're going to play. And you talk about the other guys on the back end and some of the talent up front, but it really does have a little bit of everything, doesn't it? Skill, grit, certainly a lot of good leaders there. You mentioned Dyson Stevenson. I mean, we've got all the makings of a good roster. We just can't wait to get going, though, and I bet you feel the same way.
Oh, absolutely. Obviously, I've said it to 5 or 6 people in the last couple of days. When I decided to sign, it was pretty short window, and I figured I'm going to get as much training in as I can. Like, obviously, I had been staying in the gym and staying on the ice, but wanted to get as many skates and gym sessions in as I could. So I chose, the last day of the window to fly out, and then I see Coach show up, and I see Dice show up, and Ewan hits me up, "When are you coming into town?" And I'm like, maybe I should have flew out a little earlier. No, I'm ready to get going. So yeah, I'm itching. I'm counting every day. Under a week now. So six days and I'm gone. But yeah, I'm pumped to get out there.
And I know the fans can't wait to have you on this side of the pond. One final thing, when you and I talked a little bit once you signed about sort of, where you're at and all that and how you want to be a big part of the community. And that's always music to an organization's ears. You talked about, anything that we can do with school visits, stuff like that, or hospital visits. You want to be front and center. And that shows the leadership. And when I heard that, I'm like, we've made such a good signing here with a guy that's so valuable on the ice, but also wants to be a part of the community. And that's a big part of the hockey family. That word or that term hockey family gets bandied about almost too much. But when I had that conversation with you, I'm like, well, Bolts, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. And so just talk a little bit about what what you want to accomplish both on and off the ice this coming season.
Yeah, so I love that part of the game and being a professional athlete. Obviously on the ice, we want to bring home trophies. That is the goal. There's not a lot of moral victories in pro hockey, so certainly we want to be bringing home some hardware. But off the ice, we're very fortunate that we get a lot of downtime. Like, you have to work hard. You have to get your sleep. You got to eat right. You got to work hard at practice. You got to get your workouts in. But at the end of the day, it's 4 or 5 hours out of your day, and we are lucky to have a lot of downtime. And as you get older, you're not really sitting on the Xbox quite as much anymore, or going out to dinner and lunches and blowing money every day. And I have a lot of military members in my family, and then just kind of came from a family that did a lot of those things. So, one of the big things I do is go out and give out presents every Christmas to military families, no matter what country I'm in. And then, I love to go out to the schools. I run a hockey training program called Pulse Hockey, where we work with little kids in the game. Some of them are even house players, single A players, B players. Doesn't matter the level. We don't nitpick. We just bring kids out and help, get them better. And I love working with the younger kids, especially bringing the game to them. Over there's a lot of school visits where people are just learning about hockey, and that's really cool for me. Obviously, it's dictated my entire life, so to bring the game to somebody else is really cool. But yeah, it's something I'll definitely be involved in this year. Pretty much anything where we're helping out people is something I definitely want to be involved in. And I have a couple of things on my own that I'll bring to the team. And we have such a great squad. I'm sure there's plenty of guys that are going to hop on board with me, which is a comforting feeling. So.
Well, Bolts, when you arrive and once you're settled in, lunch is on me. We'll discuss those
Thanks,
sort of
boss.
off-ice things, and I make you a promise, whatever it is you want to do, I'll be there to join you on a few of those visits, whether it's to hospitals or schools. And
Yep.
fair play to you. It's been a joy talking to you. It's going to be a joy watching you play, and it will be a joy once you're in Glasgow at the Braehead Arena. So enjoy the rest of your time there in the U.S., but safe travels, and we'll see you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Can't wait to get there. Thank you.